They can anticipate the numbers for you.
So we got 2 minutes, so there's no more seats available, right? No more seats available? You saving a seat for somebody? Oh, we got a seat over here. Anybody got seats open left?
There's a seat up front there if somebody wants to sit.
So one seat over here, got any takers? Got any takers? We also have this floor space, really lovely. I promise I won't spit. Much.
Thank you.
Any other seats open that are not being safe for someone? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. All right. We've got one under minute left. Enthusiastic crowd here. So anybody here has been to one of my sessions in the past 5 years? Raise your hand. All right. Thank you for coming for more abuse.
Now we get it.
It's as you've been through some of my sessions before, they're a lot of fun, high energy, and I throw a lot of information at you just so that you could get maximum exposure for the time. So let's see here, let's get started in 30 seconds. So round.
For your first question, will this be on the website so we don't have to take that?
Oh, you mean as far as PowerPoints and stuff? That reminds me, yes, I need to test. I'm going to email everyone not only just the PowerPoint slides and on the website, but I'm recording this session so you can relive this moment and share it with your friends. I record myself so I can critique myself, so I can become a better speaker year after year. As some of you, you probably don't know this, but I have 4 presentations at SREB this year. Last year I thought it was crazy when I had 3 presentations, but they accepted 4 of mine. So it's really exciting. So this is the first one of 4, all technology related, and I record all my sessions. So that does not mean that if you have me circled before, do not attend. But then again, you make room for someone else. So I believe it's time to get started. And thank you those for coming back. Just out of curiosity, which session did you attend, sir, over here?
Last year.
In Nashville? Something technology related?
This is something about the class.
Okay, well, flipping class, great. And somebody back there?
Last year, flipped class.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for coming back. So this set, I just want to let you know that we're here talking about flipping the class. My focus here today is to tell you the why, mostly to get the why into place, because for a lot of us, we're still trying to understand, why do we want to do this? Is this just a fad, or is this just a trend, or is this something that's really here to stay? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we need to do about it, and then how to do it. So I'm here with Katie Huffis, and we're talking about, when you flip the class, it's all about online accountability, student mastery, and rigor on one thing. And my name's kind of blocked off here, but I'm founder and president, and I've been speaking about this topic for 4 years now. At the first time I wrote about this topic, I was the only session to talk about flipping classes. It was a brand new trend. Khan Academy just came out, and people were saying, what the heck is this flip thing? So I decided to dive right into it. Really wonderful topic. So I like to start off with this little saying. The textbooks of yesterday do not fit with the students of tomorrow. Anybody here disagree with that statement? Because how about agree with that statement? Resounding yes. Yes. All right, great. Because we're trying to force these antiquated volumes of information down the throats of these students, where they're all so connected with digital technology, it's not going to work. So first thing I want to talk about is why I'm so passionate about this. First off, I want to tell everyone that I was made in Taiwan. I know, it's a funny joke. I wasn't exported here to the United States until I ripened at the tender age of 2. So I'm a foreigner. Because of that, English was my second language. So because of that, I had reading problems. I had reading deficiencies. I actually made it through high school without finishing a complete novel. I had this problem with reading. I also grew up in a Chinese restaurant because when my parents immigrated here, that was what Chinese people did for the most part. We opened up restaurants. And so I grew up in that type of environment where like I was pretty much throughout grade school and some of high school, I was under free and reduced, even though I was at a restaurant. We weren't making a whole lot of money, which led to a problem here where I had a little minor issue with ADHD. So, any of you have students who have that problem here? Yeah, I see a lot of head nods here. So, but the thing is, like, you know, we were so poor that my parents did not take me to a psychiatrist to put me on drugs, which was a good thing because I had to learn to deal with this problem. You know, and it was a very big disciplinary problem too for my parents. Like, they were going crazy. But the thing is, like, you know, I had to learn to control this and use it to my advantage. So now the biggest, like, you know, deficiency or problem that students have has become my greatest asset. I am able to focus on so many more things because I can divide my attention. I learned to do that in such a way where my peers have to be set on this narrow focused path. So for me, I'm so glad that they did not put me on route. And these kids here, you know, they're all facing the same thing. We're trying to shove them down a narrow path, but then, you know, how do we harness this like over hyperactive, distractive energy into something that can be more cohesive for us in education? So because of that problem I had, or not really a problem, but an asset, you know, I loved video games. Video games actually kept me focused, gave me the things, the stimuli I needed to be able to focus on a task because there's a million things going on. In fact, like I like the analogy, like there's this like game where like there's like a million bullets coming at you at the same time. You have to maneuver the ship around it, and I'm able to do that. But when somebody else looks at it, they go, "This is just a glob of mess," but somehow my mind processes it, and I'm actually able to control the joystick and move it subconsciously in a way through that maze because I'm able to process all that information. It's quite intriguing that we see it happen. So I love video games, which actually led me to computers. I taught myself programming at a very young age, and then today I'm standing in front of you as a digital learning specialist because one of my big goals in education with why I am doing what I'm doing is to basically reach kids like me who were not part of the academic model. I mean, there's definitely kids who are on that track and great for them, but then there's kids like me who like didn't fit the model. So I had problems in school. I even failed a math class. A Chinese kid failing a unheard of. And I did because I was distracted. I was not focused in class. So I wanted to come up with a way to be able to reach our students. And that's why I'm speaking to you today and why I'm so passionate about it. So today's kids are used to information at their fingertips. And I have this cute little video here. Oops, and I forgot to attach my speakers. Oh, cool. Mood lighting. Now, no one go to sleep. You know, I'll throw chalk at you. Chalk? We have chalk? Actually, I've had that done to me quite a few times. All right, so just a moment here while I plug on in. You have got something. I was too absorbed in that selfie stick. Okay, this way you can go here. Anybody here love Big Bang Theory? Oh yeah! Oh my gosh, I love it. Scientists and nerds doing their everyday things.
Stick this in here, and then I'm going to pour in the milk. I hope this works because I didn't bring a change of pants.
Look, I googled it. It's a big picture. That's it. Milk cake for you. Anyone else want to join the milk cake club?
Just kidding, boys and girls. Everyone gets cake.
So I love that little clip, and it's just humorous, but it really exemplifies the aspect of kids are growing up in a world now where they had access to the information right in their hip pocket anywhere. Cool, lights are on. Cool, I have a light controller. So basically, you know, they expect that immediacy. They expect that instant gratification of information. They need that instant gratification of information. Gone are the days of going to the library, searching the Dewey Decimal System, or even worse, searching a file catalog to then go find the microfiche, to scan through the myriads of articles to find that one article that you're researching for a specific project. And after you've done all that effort, you're like, I'm done. I'm not going to do another article. I'm not going to research another article. I'm going to base everything on that. Because you could put so much work into it. Now, you can Google it. You could cross-reference dozens and dozens of articles. You know, look at wiki, see all the references. You can consume so much more information now in a fraction of the time. So we have to remember that whole entire paradigm shift that what we're used to is not the reality of these students today. So they do not fit the traditional classroom anymore. And that's one of the biggest struggles, trying to transition ourselves from the traditional classroom model of lecture, which has been going on for the past decade, into a more group-centric, project-based oriented model. And flipping the classroom definitely gets you there. So I'm going to show you this little video from a math teacher who explains to you why she flipped her class on.
I've been teaching math for the last 5 years, and this is why I flipped my classroom. This is what my classroom used to look like. I was teaching to the middle group of the class. The students, they could follow along with what we were doing, and we were going through the content. While I had a group of higher level students, not challenged,
That's me.
bored with the information, ready to move forward. And I had a struggling group of students that were not receiving enough effective remediation. They didn't have the basic content they needed to be working on the content we were currently covering, or they needed more help in order to be successful. This led to a 90% use of class time being spent on delivery and review of content. 90% of the time I was at the front of the classroom, lecturing to a group of students, and I wasn't meeting all of their needs. 10% of class time was actually spent on application, which led to, depending on students, to do the application needed to be successful. They had to go home or outside of class and work on applying the concepts that I was giving out in class. This constant battle of not reaching the needs of all students and feeling the need to differentiate for all of my learners allows teachers to feel overwhelmed and ineffective, because we see the need for differentiation, but there's just not enough time for effective differentiation. This called for a drastic change in how we teach. This is where flipping the classroom comes in. Now the students outside of class preload the content. They get the information they're going to need for class. They can pause, rewind, and rewatch the videos as many times as they need to. They can post questions online to their classmates or to the teacher. And it's a self-paced program where they can be remediated by going back and reviewing former topics, or they can work ahead when they've already mastered concepts and are ready to look forward. They get the content here before class, so that when they come into class, my whole classroom has now shifted, where I'm at the center of the class, working between these differentiated groups, focused on different pieces of application. I can now work between each of these groups that are moving at their own pace. This has created a 90% use of class time spent on application of the content, and 10% of class time is spent on delivery of content, when I can answer questions that have been posted, or take any other questions that have come up from applying the content. Now in my classroom, all students are engaged and challenged. I have time to work with each group, give them individualized time and instruction as they need, and I can actually work between each of the groups to provide effective differentiation for all my varied groups of learners. My struggling students, my middle group of learners, and I can now extend and expand on my higher level students' prior knowledge and challenge them in the classroom.
So, you're having fun. We're not. No. No, but yeah, I mean, I love that clip from Kate, because she really effectively describes the reasons why she did it and the effect of it. So the entire premise is is to be the center. So instead of being in the front, projecting out like what I'm doing right now, actually, we're in the center. And don't worry, I think they're doing a 1-minute exercise that they're finishing up. So.
Sorry. I know y'all can't hear, so we're trying to shut these doors. So,
Okay.
but they're not disturbing you.
I think they're done. Anyway, so the entire thing is you're in the center of this learning environment. You're the focus of the students, and that's the way it should be. You need to be right there in the middle, dealing with everybody. There's some learners that need you a little bit more, some that need you a little less, and some of them don't even need you at all, right? So that way you can differentiate the instruction that way. Okay, so first off, in order to flip your class, you have to first look at yourself and see what kind of instructor are you. This doesn't work for everybody. There's people who have been teaching in a certain way, and it's a struggle because the way we are as humans, we become habituated in what we do. So it doesn't fit for everybody, And the thing is, we have to realize that if it doesn't fit for you, then there are other paths that you can take to become a solution. So first off, are you the type of teacher who is the Lord by the board? Where all the information comes through you, by you, and only you. So fortunately, we don't encounter very many people who are in that type of situation, and if they are, they're probably not in this session. So there are teachers, and I'm sure you probably know a few peers who are like that. So for us, we are the guide by your side. We have to realize that we're not the gatekeepers of knowledge anymore, because the knowledge is right here, there, everywhere. We want to guide the students through that information, help them find out what's the right information, what's correct, to not take the first Google answer that they got. You have to also be able to apply a variety of differentiating instructional models. So more than just doing it one way, you have to differentiate and really work with each student individually that need it. Multimodality models of learning. What I like to say about this is each student learns differently, as you know. So some might be kinesthetic, some might be audio, some might be visual, some might love to read. And the thing is when we present education, we're usually presenting 1 or 2 models at a time. That's because we're human. But with technology, what it does for us is that it allows us to be able to create more models of learning. So when you actually present the information, if you're actually able to present it in 5 different ways, then all the better for the student. Because like if you were to go to a buffet at a restaurant, would you pick the same item as you would over there? No, everyone eats and has different flavors and tastes when they go to a buffet. So in education, what we're trying to do with technology is we're trying to create a buffet of choices for the students to learn the material, whether it be one way where they have to do it only kinesthetically, or they can do it through books, or they can do it through remedial video instruction. The thing is, we start to accumulate all these different models, and then that way, as we're building this library, then they have choices. And you have to be able to use technology as a tool. So technology is key, because what technology does is it makes you stronger, faster, able to leap buildings on a single bound. Or what I like to call it is with these technologies, you're able to see things. There's cool technology out there that lets you observe your class, digitally in a way. And that thing is when we think about it, it's science fiction in a way, but it's not. It's what I like to call it is you are now the bionic teacher. You have all these tools and gadgets and things like that to be able to do things more than ever before. Because we as humans, we're limited by our abilities, but with with the technology, we can enhance ourselves. And we have to be able to embrace these technology tools to be able to make it a part of our lives. So I love this little illustration because one of the big things that I like to point out is we are now in the video game generation. In fact, I'm spending a whole hour on that topic later this afternoon. But I like to reference that with entertainment. So over here on the left, we see cartoon characters. So these are cartoon characters that you most likely grew up with watching on television, right? So we got like Felix the Cat, Smurfs, Mickey Mouse. Who doesn't love Mickey Mouse, right? And SpongeBob. I tolerate SpongeBob, but but the thing is so when you were kids, you watch these characters on the television. You love these characters. You identify with them. They tell you a story. Well, so what your parents did was they sat you in front of this television, and you're sitting there watching this story, being entertained. So what happens is you're being trained that this is how I get my information from the television. So then transition that to education in the 70s and early 80s. Then you go in, you sit in a classroom, and you're watching someone lecture. Now we have video games. With the advent of video games in the 1980s and beyond, the kids are identifying with these characters. You got Sonic the Hedgehog, you got Snake from Metal Gear Solid, and Link from Legend of Zelda. And who doesn't love Mario, right? Mario fans in here? A few, okay. I know, love Mario. So all these kids love Mario. So these iconic characters are now creating a different relationship with your students. Instead of passively watching a story being told to them, they're actively engaged with these characters. They're moving them, they're jumping them, they're taking Mario through a level and jumping on a Koopa turtle, picking it up, throwing it at a mushroom, and then going down, attacking Bowser and saving the princess. So they are actually actively engaged in their entertainment. They're actively engaged in these characters. They're making decisions on the lives of these characters. They're masters of their destiny. So they go in the classroom and they're made to sit in nice neat rows. And what happens when they get to that point? Where's my control? Where is my ability to make decisions? Where's my ability to fail at a level and retry again? Where's my ability to actively engage in what I want to do? So that creates a major disconnect in education because they're coming from this form of entertainment that they're being trained on from 2 years old and up now to a system where it's okay, now listen to me. Okay. So that creates a little bit of a problem. So this is basically a theory that I've been working on. So does it make sense to everyone? Yeah. So another video that I like to pull up, this is from a YouTuber called Vsauce, that's Vsauce, who actually explained a paradigm of what if the world were different?
In the 1990s, Douglas Rushkoff coined the term screenagers to describe a generation that for the first time ever was growing up to think that images on screens weren't just something to passively stare at, but instead were something to be manipulated. Well, today, it's even more extreme. The tools and connectivity provided by the web allow us to think of images on screens not just as things to manipulate, but as things to project our own identities onto. Not everyone who does this is a professional storyteller or acclaimed poet or coherent, but hyperlinked webs of human expression are incredibly rich environments, and they exercise the brain, more so than books. Well, for the sake of argument, let's read from Everything Bad is Good for You, a book by Stephen Johnson. Now, in this passage, he imagines a world in which books were invented after video games and the World Wide Web. Kids everywhere are starting to read these newfangled books, and teachers and parents are concerned. He imagines they might say something like this. Perhaps the most dangerous property of these books is the fact that they follow a fixed linear path. You can't control their narratives in any fashion. You simply sit back and have the story dictated to you. For those of us raised on interactive narratives, this property may seem astonishing. Why would anyone want to embark on an adventure utterly choreographed by another person? But today's generation embarks on such adventures millions of times a day. Reading is not an active participatory process, it's a submissive one. The book readers of the younger generation are learning to follow the plot instead of learning to read. Interesting. But you might be thinking, come on, Michael, you can't set content.
All right. So I love that other video because it's really humorous because when you think of it from the student's perspective, we're throwing them backwards in time in a way, and that's just a really cool. I mean, if you ever get a chance to watch the YouTube channel, he's got lots of great instructional, little snippets and videos. It's called Vsauce. I should have right out there. V as in V and the sauce. V. There we go. Okay. There we go. So we have so really we're throwing them into a whole other world. Okay, that's just a reminder that I sometimes forget, and then at the end I'm like, oh. So I like to attribute the entire Flip the Classroom popularity to Khan Academy. So people here have heard of Khan Academy by now, right? Yes. Okay. But actually, Khan Academy was not the first person to implement this. This strategy, this model, has been around for roughly 15 years now. And there's folks and authors who wrote about the flipped classroom model back in the early 2000s, late 90s, starting to investigate the entire aspect of utilizing computers to help with instruction. But when Khan Academy came, with this YouTube videos on math, and the fact that students are actually watching these videos on their own, learning from them, the news media picked that up as this is the new wave of learning. So I like to give Khan an applause because he made it popular. He made the public media aware that these things are possible. And because of that, administrators, policymakers, people out there, and actually for a big part is investors are starting to pour money into this learning technology. Where in education, we always hear about the bad news. We want to hear about the good news here. So what Khan did was what I like to call flipping classroom is actually homework 2.0. Back in the day, we actually sent them home with books and expected them to read it and come to class prepared. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. So what technology does is it makes homework possible again. So there's a really fabulous network called the Flip Learning Network. And they actually have a lot of wonderful resources, so I would strongly encourage you to join their forums, and because they have a lot more information than what I could go out here today. But there you'll find other educators who are experimenting with flipped learning, the different products that are out there that help you do that, and so it's called the Flip Learning Network. And find lots of great information there. So let's talk about the nuts and bolts. What do we need? Well, first off, we need content. We need digital content in such a way that the students can access it. So we already have probably a lot of these things already on hand on our hard drives. PowerPoints, documents, PDFs, web links to your various sources and things like that. OER content that you find from a university, that stands for Open Educational Resources, for those who don't know. And then even paid for content. There's content out there that's paid for that allow you to do that. There's more vendors out there that are making the digital leap away from books now, which is very encouraging, although they still have a ways to go. Then another thing that's very important is you need devices. Okay, so students need to have access to obviously computers and laptops, but a lot of these things are also mobile friendly. So smartphones and tablets are accessible as well. Anybody here have an iPad or tablet set up in your classroom? Cool. I would say significantly more than last year. So that's great. So, but the thing is, like, what do we do with these tablets? That's the big question. So, and I used to do an iPad presentation, but I decided to cut that one out this year because I need to make room. Yeah, 5 would be too many sessions, would you say? So you need to have devices. But now you're probably thinking to yourself, what about technology inequity? Some of my students don't have these devices. So a big movement that has been going on in education is BYOD, not BYOB. BYOD, bring your own device. So so a lot of kids have access to like tablets at home. Like a parent probably bought them an iPad or a Kindle Fire or even iPod Touch. Those devices are all capable of being utilized. And the thing is, like schools who are resistant to students bringing their own device, we've actually had studies that have been published on various like news outlets that have said schools that have implemented it in a proper way have seen less infractions of using the devices improperly than ever before, because now the students have something to do with it. So anybody here have successfully implemented BYOD? Raise your hand. Okay, great. So we have a few. So can I hear from one of you about like how successful it was, or if it was a failure? Go right ahead.
We had a big problem with students wanting to bring them and sneak them out. They fall out of their pockets, so you could see them texting. But once we allowed them to bring their device, the rule was that you could only use it during an appropriate time as announced by the teacher, and it had to remain flat on the desk. So once we know they have them in the hands and they're using them in class, there was less times of them sneaking off in the bathroom to use them or trying to hide them down here. So
that's exactly what's been going on. So that's a wonderful illustration about so if you use the tool properly, they're going to have it anyway.
Yep.
So let's make appropriate use of it. So I like to have this like wonderful analogy that was told by Bill Daggett from the Model Schools Conference a few years back. He told a story about pencils and smartphones. So back during the Great Depression, not the one that we're currently getting out of right now, but the one that happened way back in before I was born. There was a problem in education. Huh? Yeah, 1920. That was before I was born. There was a problem in education. They were facing this massive budget crisis. So they had to make a decision. What do we need to do to slash our budgets and be able to make it through? Well, somebody suggested, hey, everybody's got pencils at home. Why not have the students bring in their own pencils? Because back then, they used to go to their desks and then open up their desks, and they had their pencil given to them right there for them to use at appropriate times. And when they're not in use, they put it away and they close their desk. So that's the way it was done before. But when that was suggested, such a novel idea, the education community went in an uproar. They're like, no, we can't do that, because then we're going to lose control. What if they use those pencils inappropriately outside of class and write on walls? Defamation of property. That's terrible. Oh my gosh, you have to send the janitor out there and clean it up. What if they use it to, oh my gosh, pass notes to each other? We don't want them doing that. Talk about texting. Oh gosh. What if they poke each other in the eye? Well, think about the liability lawsuits that's going to happen from that. Although back then, litigation wasn't so popular as it is now. And we can use it to cause general nuisance and distractions. So I like to bring that up because education, in a lot of cases, is resistant to change. But the ridiculousness of this, it's hindsight is 2020. We look at these devices; they're useful tools. They're going to have them. So why not use them? And they're cheap too. They're really, really cheap. So, funny little video. I love throwing funny little videos in here. And the reason I'm flipping out because for some reason it's really jerky. So can tablets replace
Emma! Emma!
So, we have all this technology, but the practical nature of things is that you still need to do things in a practical manner. But technology certainly does enhance our lives, and it can take care of a majority of our needs, but not all of our needs. So that's why we as teachers are very important, because we need to be out there to be the wisdom behind these gadgets and devices. So the next thing we have is access. Now, access is very important, and now, compared to 4 years ago when I started talking about this, is becoming more and more available. But still, there's still technology and internet inequality out there. So some people live in very rural areas. So if you live in a rural area, can you flip? Well, yes and no, because you do need like internet bandwidth and things like that to be able to pass the information through, because that's the most reliable way to do it. But then again, you got to think about it this way. Hey, Ms. Smith, I don't have internet at home. Well then, how do you play these games that you play on the internet? Well, I just steal it off my neighbor's internet Wi-Fi. Okay, there you go. or hey, I get it from these various places that offer it for free. Yes?
When I introduced my Edmodo to my class last year, I gave, for first day of school, first homework assignment was log on to Edmodo, that's your homework, and it said free 100 to start the year out, just enter your name. So then a week later, when people were claiming they couldn't do their homework because they didn't have internet, oh, well, how did you get your name up there? so that was my way of knowing which people truly did not have internet and which ones didn't.
That's a great strategy there. So she just went ahead and made it an assignment, and you signed up. You had a way to do it. And the thing is, these kids are very savvy. They need the internet like a drug. So they know ways to be able to get it. They have friends. They have colleagues. They know they hack the system. But the thing is, like there's also so many places that offer for free. The public library. You can even go to Home Depot. And places like that. If you Google free public Wi-Fi, it'll take you to a site where you can actually type in your zip code, and it'll show you all the spots that offer free Wi-Fi that's identified. So you can say, hey, where do you live? Oh, here, let me type in your zip code. No, you can go here, 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 here. These are really wonderful options to do it, like Starbucks everywhere. There's a Starbucks on every corner. So open Wi-Fi is readily available, not to mention that kids know how to get to it, because they need their online fix. So as far as inequity, it's coming down to the point where it's a moot point almost nowadays. So thank goodness for that. All right, so now, how do we do it? Well, there's 4 categories of software or programs out there that you would utilize to accomplish this goal. So first thing is content creation tools. If you don't have content that's already done visually, you might need to create it yourselves. Then we have content management tools. So it's a way to be able to manage, distribute that information, and get it in a cohesive manner. Then we have project management tools. Now this category is a special category because we really try to focus on PBL, and not all tools are geared towards project management very well. And then learning management systems now. Most schools all have learning management systems now, whether it be Moodle and Mono. Actually, I'll show you the slide. But so people don't really have to search for that anymore. Back in the day, you had to kind of go out and be a pioneer on that. So a lot of those things have been established now. And if not, then I would talk to your school's IT person and say, why don't we have one? Like Schoology is a very new one now. Maybe Schoology. Okay, so first I want to talk about is a project management system that actually is really cool and really easy to use. So anybody here heard of Trello? Yeah. Of course, you were in my session. No one else has? Okay, it's a wonderful tool, and yeah, I'm going to pull up that right here.
If you've ever had to coordinate a team of people working on multiple projects, you know that the hardest part is keeping track of where everyone is up to and what everyone is working on. That's what Trello helps you see instantly at a glance. This is Trello. Trello is really simple. It's just a bunch of lists, and each list has on it multiple cards. And and each card is one of the little projects that your team is working on. On the right-hand side, you see a bunch of images here. Those are all the people on this team, and they all have access to this board. And this particular team is a company called Artist Exploitation Incorporated. What they do is find young garage bands on YouTube and then give them an extreme makeover and then an exploitative recording contract. So on the left-hand side, we have the new bands that we've just found on YouTube, and when we find a new one, all we have to do is click Add Card and type in the name of whoever we found on there. Each of these cards has a bunch of stuff on the back of it, which you get to just by clicking on the card. This one has some voting, as you can see. There's a bunch of conversation, like a little chat here, and of course you can upload and embed things. So there's an uploaded YouTube video of the band live in work. The first thing that we're going to do on this team is pick the top ranked bands. Everybody votes on the ones that they like, and the ones that are best, we're going to actually do live in-person auditions. And so we're just going to drag over some of those cards into the audition column in order to choose the ones that need an audition, and then I'm going to assign people to them. So I'm going to assign Lena will be in charge of my little brother, and Tyler's Canadian, so you can do Girlfriend in Canada, and Justin's going to do Sedate Dilemma. And I really like that Sedate Dilemma band. They got a lot of votes, so I'm going to drag it up to the top here, so we work on that one first. By the way, this stuff is all happening in a web browser over the internet, and everything is instantly synchronized as you make changes. So whatever changes I make here will immediately show up in all other browsers, everywhere else on the internet. And so people can just keep a copy of this open on their desktop and immediately see what's going on with their team as the changes are made. They'll immediately reflect on there. All right, so Justin goes in, he does an audition of the Sedate Dilemma band. He thinks they're really awesome. We're going to sign them up, and we send them over to the makeover department just by dragging them over here. And I'm going to assign our makeover artist, Michael, to work on that. Michael is going to actually just draw a little image of what he thinks the band should look like. There's his drawing, and upload this to the back of the card where everybody can see it. There we go. And finally, he's going to send it over to the final review process when he's done. And I'm in charge of all the final reviews, so I'm going to assign myself to that card. And when I look at this band, there's a couple of changes that I want to make. So I'm going to add a checklist here of all the things that I want to change. First of all, I think it should be a little bit more glam. Secondly, I want to somehow find a way to exploit the teenage girls' love for vampires and Twilight and everything to do with that whole thing. And third, more cowbell. Definitely. Once I've added my checklist, I'm just going to take this card and send it back to the makeover department, where Michael's going to go in there and make these changes that I've asked for. He's already got a picture that has a slightly more glam version. And then you can check that off. For capitalizing on Twilight, he's just going to propose a different name band. That should do that. And the cowbell we can always add in post-production. No problem. So he sends it to me for final review, and I love it. And I just drag it over to the record first album column, where we assign our recording engineer, John, to work on that. Now, everything about this process is completely reconfigurable at will. So, for example, if we decide that this band has to wait another year to get a little bit older, we can make a new list for bands that are waiting to get older. There we go, and we can drag it over there and wait. It's a very simple process by which anybody can keep track of everything that's going on easily. Let me show you a couple of other simple Trello boards.
There we go. So that's Trello. So what I love about that program there is, first off, did that look easy to use? Oh yeah. It's super easy. So it's easy. Secondly, it's free. So this company actually makes buku money doing like lots of other things, and they decided to create this tool for their internal project management system. Then they decided, hey, this is so awesome, let's just release it out there and have people use it. And that to me is spectacular, because like I've used many project management tools in doing a lot of things that I do. And a lot of them are paid for, and they don't even do the things that this program did as well. You know, it doesn't have everything, but it has what I need. So So if you look at it, you're like, this is a great way to assign projects to students, like track their activity, see where everyone's at on one page. So I encourage you to go look it up. It's Trello, just like Trello, and sign up for free. And the best part is, like, first thing you probably want to do is use it for yourself personally. Create a to-do list, or even better yet, create a board for your spouse. And say, hey, why haven't you mowed the lawn yet? It's still on the to-do list. And then, don't forget about that. So there, there's a lot of great practical applications. I love sharing that. I'm surprised that more people haven't been exposed to that. I've seen a few other speakers mention this, but it's such a great tool. Why not put it out there? So when we're talking about technology, we follow the SAMR technology implementation strategy. So anyone seen this before? Good. So most technology implementation, when you follow this model, this is a very cool model. We want to get ourselves down to the modification and redefinition. So for a lot of us, when we're using technology, we're just substituting something we've been doing with technology, such as whiteboards and digital whiteboards. But then if you're using it just that way, then you're just substituting. But then you get to the augmentation level, modification and redefinition. So this is a great chart to look at when you're looking at technology and say, does it really modify the way I'm doing these? Is it a significant redesign of what I'm doing to make it my life even better, or my students' lives even better, or does it redefine it? So every technology coordinator should follow this model. All right, so a little bit about content creation. So with content creation tools, there's a myriad of them out there. I mean, the most common way to do it is your smartphone. So hey, you got these little cool video recording devices. Why not set it up on a tripod or a selfie stick, or have a student record you doing something. You don't have to be a rock star. You don't have to do it perfectly. And that's the thing. It's like when we're all perfectionists at heart. But the thing is, like, just get it done and then put it out there. If you make a mistake, say, oops, I made a mistake. But then you have the information out there, and maybe you could go back and revisit it later. But there's no harm in stumbling when you're doing that. So I say, just do it and put it out there. That's another modality that the students can learn through video. We got YouTube, which a lot of schools are starting to become more relaxed on, because there's a lot of great resources out there on YouTube besides cat videos. Now Google Drive is really great because there's the Google Docs suite, so everything's online collaborative. So if you haven't used Google Drive yet, it's really wonderful tools that do that. There's also tools that do great presentations like Animoto, Prezi. A lot of teachers use Camtasia to record their PowerPoint lectures, which is great. But then we're causing them death by PowerPoint, so we want to try to stay away from that as much as possible. And hundreds more. So there's a lot of great content creation tools out there. This is just listing a few. Actually, can I have lights, please? So, get that. Oh, right. So then we have learning management tools. Now, most post-secondary institutions use Blackboard and Canvas. So a lot of high schools are moving toward Canvas as well. But we know a lot of people who use Edmodo now. I love Edmodo because it brings a great way to communicate to students, and it's very Facebook-like, and they're kind of used to it. So who here uses Edmodo? Raise your hands. So a good smattering of you. So I guess the question is, has it been effective to reach your students?
Very.
Very. All right, very. Very is very good.
Emails the parents that they have homework if it's late.
Yeah, so there's a lot of wonderful mechanisms in Edmodo that if you're not using it, then you're doing it more difficult way. And then Moodle actually is popular because it's free, but it's a beast to work with. It's probably, so definitely know that. And have experience.
You said Edmodo to these?
No. Moodle. Yes. And Edmodo is actually easy. So, and it can be very deep too. So, content management. So we have Google Drive again. A lot of people use Dropbox, was really good, but Google Drive has since then trumped them because you can actually put media in there. And one thing I love about Google Drive is like if you have a video and you want to put it on YouTube, obviously you're supposed to block it. But let's upload that video into Google Drive and share it with your students. They use the whole entire back end of YouTube, so it compresses the video, it makes it streamable, and it bypasses all of your filters for the most part until the IT people figure that out. but the thing is, it's your drive, it's your content, so it's a great way to put your videos for your private network and actually have the power of YouTube, which is a very powerful video platform. So Google Drive is SlideShare is it's a great resource for uploading PowerPoint slides to the masses. So it's kind of like the YouTube of PowerPoint slides, and allows you to do that. Now KP Compass is something that I'm going to spend a few minutes on, but basically it's a very elaborate content learning management system, and it's actually a tool that a number of educators use to organize their content in such a way to make it a cohesive unit so that their students are actually using it, and it has an automatic formative assessment system in it that actually generates hundreds of assessments based on the stuff that you do. Okay, so I have a few minutes. So basically, one of the big things that I like to talk about and in conclusion is that a lot of these tools out there are really great. And I'm trying to do something different. And with the KP Compass thing I told you about, we're trying to make it so that it's an adaptive learning system. And what that simply means is that every single student has a different experience. Every single student has their own IEP in a way. Every single student will get personalized instruction, will get personalized feedback. And I want to just take a few moments to tell you how I'm making that vision possible, because this is what I want in education. This is what I've dreamed of for the past few years that I've been living. But the thing is, it's in private beta, so it's one of those things that only people that have been exposed to it. You can't just find it on the web. We only have teachers who are building math curriculum, music curriculum for the grade school, which is amazing. I don't even know how that happened, and business finance and whatnot. So it's a private beta. But the thing is, it's something that for the pioneers at heart who want to do something truly amazing. But the difference is, it's as easy as Trello. So you got to think about that. So what I'm going to show you here is a series of screens that basically exemplify what adaptive learning is. So this is KP Compass, and what I wanted to kind of tell you is walk you through a process of learning that a student will go through. So this is what we call a learning module. So here's the objectives and here's concepts. So each of these concepts contain content, whether it be text, video, mixture of activities and things like that. But the important thing is that each of these concepts are things that you want your students to master. So if I click on burns, obviously it's going to talk about burns and things like that. So this is going to be content that you have on your hard drive that you upload into your PDF document. So the entire aspect is, okay, so we have all these concepts. What happens at the end when your students are done studying that information? You ask the age-old question, did I learn something, right? So what do? You take a quiz. The quiz gives you a percentage, and then that's it. End of game, game over. But what I want to do is I want to flip that testing structure upside down and make it into something that you fear, into something that you want to do. That's something that you want to get that feedback. So we have a button down here called Check Your Knowledge. Let's go over here. And we call it Check Your Knowledge simply because we want the students to say, hey, I just studied this information, let me check my knowledge and see if it's something that, if I actually learned something. So they click on that button, which I just logged myself out, I'm not going to spend the time logging back in again, is they click on that button. What it actually is happening is that there's two students interacting with the system, and we want to call the system a personal digital tutor. So we want them to think of it as this is my personal tutor, and the tutor is going to quiz me on this information and determine whether I learned something or not. So questions will be asked about every topic, And then immediately after they're done answering those questions, the tutor is going to give them instantaneous feedback in the form of this. So what this is telling the student is very simply, these 2 pages of information that you studied, you've proven to me as a tutor that you know it. So I'm going to put a green dot next to it and move it out of your content block. So it's actually separated from the rest of the content. But these areas here, which actually is kind of hard to see, this is actually yellow with orange-ish. We have red and orange. Is basically me telling you, okay, spend your time and focus on these topics. You've proven to me that you don't have that content, and you need to go back and focus your time on it. So what we're doing is we're telling them to target certain areas so they can become more efficient learners. So they go back and they study these areas, and they're going to go back to the tutor, and I'm going to ask more questions about these topics, but not the same questions over and over and over again. See, that's the key. It's not the same. We're not repeating it over and over. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to determine, did they learn more about this topic or not? Now, if they did learn more about it during that second iteration, then we're going to change this color from red to orange. So we're going to show improvement, growth. Now, if they do well on this orange one, and then we turn it green, we're actually going to remove it out of that content block. So their content area is going to get more narrow as they go through these assessment processes. Now, what this is doing is it's helping them focus on the areas that they're having the biggest struggles on. And that's really important because we want that feedback. When I go back to the video game notion, I want to do things over and over and over again because I want to master that level on Mario or something like that. So for me, if I'm seeing growth and improvement and I'm being focused on certain areas, I'm actually learning through remediation to master the content that I'm not able to get the first time around. So it's a very sophisticated form of assessment system that actually utilizes artificial intelligence. It actually targets certain questions to the student and determines what kind of questions to ask. So this entire process is great because we're building their confidence. So when they go through this process and they see mostly green and yellow or orange, then test is on Friday. How am I going to do? Well, the tutor tells me I'm going to do really well because I went through it 5 or 6 or 7, or if I'm special needs 50 times, then I'm going to be really confident that I'm going to do really well versus this, which I'm not going to do really well. So you kind of have a mental picture of where you're at. And the best part about this is that when you look at it as a teacher, you can actually see where everyone's at by this wonderfully muted color because of the projectors. But you see orange, yellow, and red. So you can actually view where everyone's at and identify the students who are having the biggest problems. So I spend my time on this because this is the tool that I expect everybody to be creating in such a way. And the tools that are out there are very flat. They're like, read this information, take this quiz. Done. Read this information, take this quiz. Some of it has differentiated instruction, some of it rotates the questions, but not to such a sophisticated manner where anybody can put content in and actually have the system learn from the content. The system actually learns from experience, but you put questions in and content and learns which questions are answered more often correct than not, and it actually sets levels of difficulty based on experiential data. So it's really, really awesome. So you probably ask yourself, how do I do it? Well, there's a suite of tools that basically just click through and you actually go in and click on I want to add a website. You click on it, you type in the website address, and it's there. You can click on it and say, I want to add content, and then you insert a picture and do all that kind of stuff very quickly and easily.
Can teachers also use this to create a test bank data site?
Yes, they can actually. That's awesome. Very, very easily actually.
Okay.
So there's a lot of really great tool sets in there that make it so that if you already have this content available, such as video links, YouTube links, PDF documents, it could just be placed in it. And that's what I'm talking about. Is the teachers who I've worked with who are the pioneers that are out there who have used this tool are doing some amazing things because it allows them, it opens them up to some great possibilities where the students can remediate content as needed and get feedback in a virtually gamified environment in a way, because they level up, they get better better indicators and things like that. So I guess the question is, what does everyone think about that vision that I've kind of expounded upon as far as a learning model for getting to students?
It's good.
Good? Good? You like it?
Yep.
Because we're constantly improving on it. So the more people that we get on board say, hey, can you do this? The more that we can improve on it, and then eventually release it to the public. So for those of you who signed the sheet, I'm going to send an invitation to see if you want to join. You don't have to, but I'm also going to send you the video and PowerPoint slides.
Thank you.
So any questions?
What would you suggest? Our students are having problems with Khan Academy. When they come to get class in our road for graduate students, many of them are like, I can't do it.
Yeah, streaming is terrible. I don't like it.
Yes.
So we do a batch feed process where we're actually getting answer response theory to be able to build on their knowledge. Yeah, exactly. So I understand that frustration. So any other questions? All right, thank you. No, thank you very much. There's myself shares probably. But in my real life, I actually sell it so basically it's like
Also, I sent you a text earlier. Okay, right, about a shared iPad.
So you're gonna be big, like right out there?
Yeah, because I'll be coming across the street.
This is how it's going down.
What is this? I don't remember what this was. I don't think it's too okay.
Thank you so much. Well, the presentation. Actually, I have a lot of these access slides on it too, so I need to put it up. That's fine. Oh, very big. Oh, sure. I'll put it up.
In the back here.
Oh, well, you already are developing content for it, then there is content for that.